So the lay of the land of programmatic today. Let's see. So over the next 2 hours, I'll try and break down. No, so it's rapidly changing, to say the least, in a very exciting way. So if you look at the converging worlds of how programmatic display overall has been operating with buying and selling of banners. One of the larger trends has been over the last 6 months or so is that a lot of, number one, many more publishers have gotten more involved and leaned in and actually either leverage their own first-party data and inventory better, and then a lot are actually going the next step and integrating their sales teams and starting to teach their global sales force how to actually do programmatic themselves instead of having it be sort of a yield management thing just in the operations channel. One of the other major trends is this burning desire for publishers and advertisers to start doing programmatic guaranteed deals. You know, one of the challenges around the entire ecosystem when programmatic first started 5-6 years ago, with any liquidity behind it, is that publishers really weren't involved. The pipes weren't built in the ecosystem to really involve publishers. A lot of it was just simple audience, finding on behalf of buyers, and the scales were very tipped, understandably, in the buyer's favor for several years. Now that publishers are starting to see that they can take advantage of this and not be pulled in defensively as a result of all this new spending and spending that has shifted as well programmatically, a lot of publishers are starting to try and figure out how they can take better control of their inventory and pricing and leverage the pipes of programmatic, but to be able to do it on their terms. And so that means a lot of pressure on the vendors to be able to say, hey, we'd like to have our inventory be transparent. We'd like to serve more creative units. We'd like to have this tied into our forecasting system a little bit better, because the two major needs right now, I would say, to be able to drive more transactional volume in a programmatic direct way would be price transparency and audience discovery. So the challenge of being able to understand how much of an advertiser's audience already exists on a publisher's audience, and then how much potential could be there to be able to just run two very basic plays of either finding those people again on a publisher's site or being able to then prospect and find new customers. The time it takes and the money that gets spent and the resources that are spent on both sides is just far too long right now. So that's just slowly starting to get better with existing and new vendors helping both sides. In my previous job at the New York Times and with a couple of publishers now with ProhaskaConsulting.com, we've been moving aggressively into leveraging the programmatic pipes for video, for pre-roll. Some of the challenges are inherently the same that we just talked about in terms of the desire for programmatic guaranteed. Some of the inherent inventory or supply that's available, understandably, is more scarce, which presents an opportunity and a challenge. So a lot of the reasons for programmatic existing and still the majority of display inventory has been in this open auction kind of pool of be able to go and grab whatever audience you can find, just sort of fishing around, sort of looking for clothes that are unfolded in a cardboard box instead of being able to go into a retail store that has the clothes folded and labeled outside the store, this is Publisher X's store. In the video space, there's such a limited quantity of video overall that's been available that there hasn't been as much of a need, fortunately I would say, to have this open auction going on. So CPMs obviously are higher in video by a strong factor of 3 to 10x compared to display, and so the need to have those controls are even more pressing. So fortunately, there are a handful of good vendors that are starting to allow publishers to have those types of tools and be able to move right into more of a programmatic guaranteed role, or at least be able to have control of picking who their advertisers are, be able to do the transaction more cleanly, whether it's through Deal ID or another method, but basically allow for at least the digital video piece to move much more smoothly through automation and the programmatic pipes that exist. So I have a personal perspective about how easy TV is compared to digital today. So 22 years ago, I was a TV buyer at BBDO, and we'll always thank Arnie Semsky and Steve Grubbs for allowing me to split my job in half and create the digital media practice at BBDO, now part of Omnicom, obviously. And the ability, and it wasn't because I was special in any way, but the ability for a 23-year-old to be able to move $5 million in a scatter marketplace by buying 8 cable networks. With supervision, certainly. But to be able to do that over the phone and then be able to know that you've made your buys and you get a letter in the mail, certainly an email now, but that's tied into a system called Donovan back at the time, now part of MediaOcean, of course. The ability to do that and save all the transactional pain in the butt and to have things just trafficked very cleanly is very enticing, and one could understand why a lot of TV broadcasters and agencies may not want to mess that up. Certainly, television broadcasters have had a very successful hold on their inventory and have brilliantly been able to take advantage of the laws of supply and demand and continue to drive value up for being able to provide reach and great brand association across all their networks. The ability to have that speed of the amount of time it takes for an advertiser or an agency to spend $1 in television is 7x less than it has been to do digitally. That was as of 18 months ago. Programmatic has improved a little bit on that, but certainly in the world of television and digital video, it's much easier to do. So that's where the bar has been set. We need to make sure programmatic can get to that point of convenience and then also provide the efficiencies of audience targeting that can only be done through demo-based Nielsen ratings in television that have been obviously good enough for 50+ years, but maybe we could do a little bit better if we leverage the speed of the transaction programmatically, but also the ability to bring audience efficiencies as well. I do think ultimately having a single platform will have great advantages in the entire ecosystem. I mean, that's one of the amazing and fascinating other areas of this arms race in the ad tech ecosystem, is that you have a lot of generalists on the buy and sell side that have been focused in display at first. When I was at X+1 a few years back, a lot of my role was to help build out the mobile and video and social aspects on top of the display bidder that they had built successfully back in the day. So, there's a race to be able to do the multi-channel, certainly, and allow publishers to be able to put all their different types of inventory in one spot, and for buyers to be able to pull all their levers and set up real, true cross-channel media planning. A couple of things are preventing that right now. One, everyone likes to talk about the product aspect, and where is Scott Spencer's roadmap at Google, and where is Teg's roadmap at Adapt TV with AOL and their full stack? Where is everybody else's? And you see those various moves, and people adding mobile, people adding video, exchanges being able to add those capabilities in. What isn't talked about as much is the other dependency, and it's a little bit of a chicken and egg issue probably, where, gosh, if they build it, the buyers will probably come, but a lot of buyers are still set up to buy by channel. So, I've asked more than 100 different agencies or marketers, how often are your budgets or your goals wanting to now move quickly to, hey, instead of here's $500,000 in display, $250,000 in mobile, $250,000 in social, here's $1 million, and we don't care where it is, video, mobile, display, wherever, just go find our people and put a reach and frequency against it, and be able to understand that we consumers move obviously across devices and across various landscapes, so why should we be treated completely differently when we move out there? So a lot of it has to do with obviously the audience tracking and ability to match someone who's on a desktop versus someone who's on a phone. But it also has to do with buyers making sure that they're pressing the ecosystem and their publishers to demand for that, because obviously a lot of buying agencies and DSPs have been set up separately to handle things by channel. So those two forces are gradually changing, and there will be some nice breakthroughs, I would say, probably in the next 12 months.